The NAL was originally meant to be a 2-division league, but the Canada division was only active for about 6 months. So the divisions merged and became a 12-team league, but 2 Canadian teams couldn't make the move to Vegas. That made it a 10-team league, in line with the EUL and BR6. But at the last second, 1 Canadian org left the scene altogether, leaving us with just 9 teams for the whole 2021 season. So the question on everyone's mind has been, who takes that final spot? We're no closer to answering that question yet, but today I figured it'd be fun to theorize. This is a question I get asked a lot, whether it be video comments or Twitch chat, and it's just one of those things I wish had an easy answer. I naively figured that we'd get a 10th team at some point last year, maybe like stage 2 or 3, but Jesse rightly pointed out that it wouldn't make sense to add a new team mid-season. This is also the only time you'll find me and Corn Pop agreeing on anything, by the way.
Jacob indeed has the biggest brain. I hate it here.
The issue is we're just frustratingly short on public details for how this might work, because Ubisoft's got to be tight-lipped about it. The North American League rulebook doesn't state anything other than that teams need to be based in Vegas. So what do we have to go on? For starters, we can look at some orgs that might potentially be in the picture, and to me, there are 2 that immediately stand out as contenders. XSET and Cloud9. For completely different reasons, trust me. For XSET, it's rather obvious, and I've seen a lot of sentiment over the past couple of weeks suggesting that other people think this is going to happen too. Despite their relegation match loss to Parabellum only a couple of weeks ago, XSET as an org is one of the fastest rising in North America. I don't think they're really hurting for money in case the license does cost a lot. They already have a team located in the right city. They had Thinking made trial for them during the second SI Open qualifier, so there's a lot of things already building up to support the theory of XSET. At least for right now, it looks like they're staying in Siege, and it's kind of hard to imagine XSET would continue supporting a team if they played in Tier 2 when they were just in Tier 1. Their COO, Marco, said in a statement to Esports back in June that they're, quote, in Siege for the long haul and never thought it would be easy. Granted, back then they weren't relegated, but I do think that same mentality can apply here. The other part of it that lines up is R6 Share, which they're already a part of, and they still have an R4C skin available in-game that you can buy right now, which I think is a bigger deal than most people might give it credit for. To get approved for revenue share is a big deal because you have to prove your commitment to Siege through a variety of criteria, and R6 Share is widely regarded as one of the best revenue sharing programs in esports right now. Orgs want that, XSET's already got it, they won't have it if they were to actually drop down to Challenger League, so you combine that with all the other factors working in their favor, and it begs the question if all XSET has to do is go, hey Ubisoft, we already check essentially every box you need, so how do we get the 10th license? To me, of any org, they've got the strongest case right now. It would be funny because it would essentially mean that the relegation game they played against Parabellum would be totally worthless, aside from Parabellum completing their anime arc and getting into the NAL, but XSET seems like the easiest path forward. Unless there was another option suddenly on the table. There is nothing public to suggest that Cloud9 is looking to take that 10th spot, but there are a few things that could support the theory. The first thing is them dropping their Korean squad back in August. On the surface, it might look like they're just getting out of Siege altogether, but Siege runs on a one org, one team rule. You can't have multiple teams across different regions competing under the same brand. Dropping one team could suggest the pickup of another. C9's an NA-based org. They have previous R6 share approval with multiple skins in-game. It's a huge deal if they were to make a return to North America. The thing about C9 is they'd need a really good reason to drop their APAC team in the first place. For context, that team is now Sandbox. They've historically been pretty good over the past year plus. It is considerably cheaper to sponsor a team from that region as opposed to North America because you've got location and other costs to factor in, but it's Cloud9. That's one of the titan organizations in esports, period. You can bet they have a fat wallet. At least I hope they do. And when they dropped the Korean team, there was nothing to suggest publicly that they were leaving Siege altogether. When I say publicly, I'm just going off of what is available to the broader internet. Like, it's not like I have insider information about what Cloud9 may or may be doing. I'm just looking at what they've said and what they haven't said and making inferences based off that. It could be totally wrong, but again, we're theorizing. So as far as I'm concerned, signs point to interest elsewhere in the scene if it's not an APAC North, and the NAL could be their preferred landing spot. That said, theoretically, any org could make the right offer behind the scenes and get that 10th license. This is where you're allowed to make your crazy dreams of Sentinels, or Renegades, or Ghost, or God, what I would give to finally see 100 Thieves in Siege. That might make me happier than Astralis buying Disrupt. Might. I really want that to happen. If given a chance to acquire a tier 1 spot in a league with Siege's level of revenue share, I bet there might be a bidding war for that spot by several organizations that we're just not privy to until that org finally gets announced. But that's just the org. We haven't even discussed who would play for them yet. Technically, without NAL longevity, whoever gets that license could field whatever roster they wanted heading into 2022, I think. I don't think the rule about minimum 2 players being in tier 1 competition the year prior would apply to an org that just got into the league. So if it were XSET, I bet they would make more roster changes than just dropping Filthy and finding his replacement. Orgs probably would have space to consider who the best available team would be. Like, do you stick with XSET's current team, or do you go for squads like One Shot, Aerial Rise, or Investigation File? Do you stick with a team that just got relegated and hope to find the right players to supplement and fix it? Or do you pick up a CL team with a really good track record in recent months that has proven chemistry? One Shot's going to the SI North American Close Qualifiers later this month, and they're completely LFO with some stacked talent. Aerial Rise were runner-up in 2 different CL stages last year, and IF's always seemed like they're that next up team. Some of the guys there are guys that my friends in Challenger League talent have touted as being some fantastic players that need to be brought up to the NAL to improve some of the rosters there. Personally, I'd say all 3 of these teams are better than the Stage 3 versions of XSET, Beast Coast, maybe even Astralis. I'm not kidding. These guys could be genuine threats if they played in a higher league. Though theoretically, if an org could pick up anybody, like, screw it. If you don't want to pick up an established team, you could also pick and choose lots of players from around the NA scene that aren't already on tier 1 rosters. This is a list of just some of the players that I found that either don't have a crazy org obligation, are on a team in T2 that might not go anywhere, or are just completely free agents that don't do anything right now. Theoretically, you could start a roster with any of them, sign some good players from any of the top 3 CL teams I mentioned before. Like, there's a way you could build a roster from that. Hell, you want to snag a couple of free agent imports? Cantor Raketi's still looking for a team. Bring him over to NA. All of this is assuming that the roster restrictions won't matter for whichever org gets that 10th spot, but still, it's opening up a Pandora's box of possibilities. One way or another, I don't see a world in which the NAL remains a 9-team league for 2022. There's time between now and March for this detail to get fixed, and there's lots of different avenues to go down. The orgs or the players involved could be completely different from what we generally expect, or it could just be XSET grabbing Thinking Nate and coming back into the league. I only talked about a couple of theories here, but there are so many other ones that you could come up with. So, who's your dream team? What's your dream scenario for that 10th spot? Let me know in the comments about who you'd love to see join the NAL in 2022. All bets are off. Be as crazy as you want. I'm not kidding. Hit up my Twitter, my Twitch, and this YouTube channel for more in the coming days. Please and thank you. And we are getting right back into SI quals this week. So, a little bit more on that later. I'll see you then. Peace.